So, welcome to Northern Powerhouses, our business success stories series of interviews, where we discuss with local business leaders, their backgrounds, their successes, their challenges, and what's really driving them forwards. And this afternoon, I'm delighted to have with us Helen Hey, who's Managing Director at Iab Lab. So, firstly, Helen, thank you for spending a bit of time with us. And if you'd like to introduce yourself, Iab Lab, what you do, how you help people, that would be wonderful.
No problem at all. I'm obviously, I said I'm Helen Hay. I'm managing director of Iab. I've been managing director since 2018, but I joined the business in 2005. So I've just
Wow.
celebrated my 20th year
Oh,
at the company. Um,
congratulations.
we are the company was established in 1990.
Yep.
So we are in our 35th year of business.
Wow.
And we are classed, I would describe us as a small family run firm.
Yep.
The company itself was set up by my stepfather in 1990.
Yep.
He had significant experience in the sort of laboratory industry. And after a number of years of working with other companies, realised there was quite a gap in the market in terms of what companies felt they could do from a specialist construction point of view to what they were actually capable of doing from the technical knowledge side of things.
Yep.
So he took the risk, and it was a big risk at the time, to set the business up himself. And we began in the originally as a laboratory furniture specialist company,
Yep.
where we specialised in sort of supplying and installing laboratory furniture throughout the lab industry, schools, universities, hospitals, private healthcare, and everything.
Yep.
And over time, we've developed through probably conscious decisions. Some
Yep.
of it, you would say a little bit of it just sort of happened, but a lot of it was conscious decisions to move further into the full construction of laboratories.
Yep.
Again, primarily because the technical knowledge my stepdad had was way greater than a lot of the contractors we were working for in terms of the
Right.
specialist requirements for, especially from an M&E point of view, the ventilation, water regulations, and even down to the construction of walls and floors and everything. So
Right.
over the last 10 years, we've moved significantly away from just the laboratory furniture to we now would class ourselves as a specialist construction company.
Right.
And we focus primarily on the design, construction, commissioning, and ongoing maintenance of laboratories,
Right.
primarily within the private sector. We do
Yep.
do some work in the public sector, but a lot of our work is in the private sector.
Yes.
And we've spent a lot of time building up a regular client base. So we have a lot of clients we've been working with for 20, 30 years
Oh,
who
right.
come back to us. We work all over the country, probably more down south than we do actually locally. So
Right.
whenever we get a local job, it's always a bonus that we're not having to travel 4 or 5 hours. But we
Yes.
work from north of Scotland right down to sort of Southampton, South Coast, and everything.
Yep.
And we basically start from the beginning with the client all the way through to the end. So we won't just come into them once they've got a design.
Yep.
We work with them in lieu of them having to employ architects and specialist consultants.
Yep.
We will do all that design stage with them,
Yep.
um, which does hopefully for most of our clients make it a lot more cost effective.
Yes.
And the continuity then of having somebody who's done the design going all the way through to doing the construction to finishing on site. And we then have a maintenance arm of our business, which will then take on the maintenance
Brilliant.
for those facilities we've put in, basically.
Brilliant.
So yeah, in a nutshell, that's what we do.
Perfect. Perfect. That sounds absolutely fantastic. It's interesting that you've really got this niche specialism and identifying that you had more knowledge and experience of the people that you were working with or contracting to. Um, and so if we think about you yourself, Helen, can you tell us a little bit about your background, how you got into business, and I guess you've identified why this particular one, but what's your story?
Well, I guess my story is probably, well, it's not that interesting, but I did the
Sure
usual.
it
So
is.
finished school, went to university. I actually studied criminology at university
Oh, right.
with a view initially to advancing through to a master's to work with sort of disadvantaged or children sort of thing,
Yep.
that side of things. But after a number of years, I think I realised that emotionally I would find that very hard
Yes.
to close the door at the end of the day and forget
Yeah.
about the people you were trying to help.
Yeah.
So I then did sort of 18 months traveling, which again sounds like a bit of a cop out, a sort of thing to do at a
Oh, I
young age.
did the
But
same.
I did sort of 18 months traveling. And then when I came back, I temporarily started working for my stepdad as a temporary basis because he was a bit short on staff at the time. And I guess 25 years later, I'm still here.
Brilliant.
I did actually find it enjoyable.
Yeah.
I probably discovered I had a lot of strengths in the sort of actual running of the business side of things, the organisation, coordination, communication, and sort of the people skill side of it, which sort of is hugely important in this job.
Yeah.
That I decided actually it was kind of what I wanted to do to some extent. And when my stepdad sort of started thinking about moving towards retirement, I obviously had some discussions, and I know it might sound daft, but I agreed to take over the sort of running of the company on the basis that him and my mum could take on some of my childcare responsibilities to free me up to be able to dedicate the hours needed for work. And sort of my stepdad and my mum then sort of picked up assisting with sort of school pickups and sort of when I had long visits and stuff. So it was a bit of a trade-off. You help with the children and I'll help the business.
That's wonderful. And what a lovely way to do it as well, because I would imagine everybody wins in that relationship.
Yes, because that has been one of the hardest things I would say about running a business is the home life balance, especially when you have young kids.
Yes.
I mean, both of my kids were born while I was working here, sort of thing. So getting that balance between the pressures of running a business to sort of still knowing you were giving your children the time they needed has been hard. But that is one of the areas I am very keen on in the business, is that the staff have the ability to have that work-life balance. And there is an understanding and a flexibility that your family, ultimately, regardless of what job you do, your family comes first, no matter what. And I found, obviously, the more you can help your staff, the more they want to help you.
Yeah. Great. A really important learning, that, isn't it? Is that if we give, we always say life's a mirror. What you get, what you put in, you get out. And if we're going to support other people, they'll support us.
Yeah, that's sort of how it works. People want to do the work for you rather than feeling they have to do, because they know that they're going to get the sort of flexibility back in return.
Wonderful. So when you were growing up, is this what you foresaw for yourself, or did you have other?
Probably not, but to be honest, there was probably loads of things I thought about growing up. I mean, one of the things I wanted to growing up was be a firefighter, but my mum said she wasn't happy with that. And then in an ideal world, if I could have done absolutely anything, I would have been a helicopter pilot.
Wow.
But, there's still time, I guess.
Absolutely. Well, absolutely. One of my friends has done that. We helped him build and sell his business, and he's learned to fly helicopters. So he does that on a regular day like this. He may well be flying.
Yes. So like I say, there's still time.
Absolutely. Some great training at the airport, as you're probably aware.
Yes, I did a helicopter lesson last year at Manchester. It was absolutely fantastic, but there's a lot of time and money involved in it, isn't there? So I think that'll have to wait for a little bit.
Not a cheap hobby, that's for sure.
No, we might get the kids out the door first.
Absolutely. Brilliant. So looking back over the time, your time in the business, what would you say some of the biggest issues and challenges you've had to overcome, Helen?
I would say some of the biggest issues, and I know it might sound like a cliche, but being a female in the construction industry, in a male-dominated industry, are probably the biggest challenges. And that's not to say that it's always been a battle. No. We work with an awful lot of very professional, sort of people, males and females, but I have, over my years of doing it, come across a lot of sort of arrogance and male
Yep.
chauvinism.
Yep.
Probably less more recently, but certainly in the earlier days,
Yeah.
you found a lot of animosity if you had a differing opinion to some of the males who felt they knew better and
Yep.
this, that, and the other. And we still come across it now. Luckily, nowhere near as much, but you have to have a thick skin and just sort of let it go over your head.
Yeah, I can imagine it's must be quite tough. Go back, all that time because it's as you say, hopefully it is improving. But I can imagine it was really challenging, especially early doors.
Yes, yeah. I mean, I've had some sort of. I remember one comment an architect told me when I disagreed with him was that women should be at home at the kitchen sink.
You are joking.
No, at the time I was in my sort of late 20s, so we're probably going 15, 16 years ago,
Goodness gracious me.
but luckily it's a lot different now. And like I said, people like that are few and far between, but
Yeah.
every walk of life, I would imagine, has.
Yeah, obviously I can't speak from any real experience, but I'm sure it still happens. I'd like to think things are getting better, but
Yeah.
yeah, that's a shocking thing to have heard from only 15 years ago. That's not that long ago in
It's
many.
not, no, but like I say, and I guess the other big challenge for me is getting the right staff.
Yeah,
And that might sound sort of daft, but especially when you're a smaller company, um, you don't necessarily have the same funds available as bigger companies.
yeah,
So obviously that's a challenge sometimes. But actually finding good dedicated staff has been one of the biggest challenges. I mean, I'm at a
yeah,
point now in the company which has taken sort of a good 5 or 6 years where we have a very good sort of staffing
right,
arrangement. They're
right,
all absolutely amazing. And what I've realised over the years of sort of employing people, trying various different options, is the key is to employ somebody for the person they are, not for what qualifications they might have, what experience they might have. Knowledge, technical training, and information that can all be given to somebody, but you can't teach somebody the personality they need to
brilliant.
work in this industry or any job, really. The personality is more important to me than
Brilliant.
anything else when it comes to
Couldn't
staff.
agree more. Couldn't agree more. It's something we teach a lot of people. It's attitude over experience. If
Yeah.
if you can get both, wonderful. I mean, that's a double whammy if you get both. But if you have to choose, obviously a base level of experience or qualification, but above that, it's all about attitude and cultural fit to the business.
Yes, and that is one of the, like I say, there's challenges of being a smaller company, but that is one of the benefits as well, because you don't have loads of protocol or checklists you have to go through that are set at a corporate level. When you interview somebody, you can generally just have a chat with them and
Yeah,
get a
brilliant,
feel for who they are as a person and make
brilliant.
your decision from that rather than having to meet certain criteria. Now, my stepdad does laugh at me now sometimes because he says I've ended up turning the business into a predominantly female business because I have employed a number of female staff. But again, that is more because of the personalities they have, and
Yeah, fine,
they are all working mums as well, which again I don't find challenging, because if you have the balance with them and if you think, well, if I give them the same flexibility as I've given myself, you do get the best out with them. And you do find actually juggling things is quite a good trait for females, sort of thing. So
yep,
the ability to switch them between various different tasks and stuff
yes,
comes a bit more naturally. I mean, we do have sort of a number of sort of male members of staff, but there's certainly a lot more females than there was
brilliant,
before I took over. Not
brilliant.
consciously, it hasn't been a conscious decision.
No,
That's just
no,
how it's worked out for getting the right people.
I really get it. Yeah, and you're focused on the attitude, and if you're getting a better attitude, then bang on. 100% couldn't agree more. And so, what would you say are the biggest learnings you've got about growing a business, Helen?
I would say some of the biggest learnings are don't sounds like a bit of a cliche, don't run before you can walk.
Yep,
So many people seem to focus so much on getting turnover. We need to increase our turnover. We need to do double the turnover we had last year and things like that. And we've seen so many competitors that have gone by the wayside or gone bust because their focus has been on having a huge turnover.
Yeah.
If you don't have the profit margins to match the turnover, there is no point.
Yep.
There is no point in working yourself into the ground to have a huge multi-million pound business if your profit margins are decreasing or your profit levels are sort of going down. For the extra pressure and stress it makes,
Yeah.
There isn't any point. To me, it's find the area you enjoy, find your niche, focus on that, make that successful before you move on to the next thing, and actually keep reassessing, how big do I really want to be?
Yep.
What's important to me? The enjoyment and the success of knowing you are making your clients satisfied, they're happy, they keep coming back to you, or success just so you can say people know our name, or you know what I mean, and things. It's
Yeah.
understanding what you want from your business.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I always say a lot of people I work with is that the challenge of running a business, an owner managed business or an SME business is the buck stops with us
Yeah,
ultimately. But the great thing about running our own business is we get to choose how it is.
yeah.
So, who we employ, how we work, how many hours we work, the flexibility you've described for your staff, and that's what really is such a rewarding thing to be able to say, this is how we're going to do it, and not
Yeah.
having to conform to any other standards or norms or ways of doing things that are out there.
And effectively, so there's no need to be greedy, if you know what I mean. There's
Yeah,
no need to try and make yourself the most popular or the most well known. You still need to enjoy your job no matter what. And if the stress levels outweigh the enjoyment you're getting, then personally, I think you do something's not working right. You shouldn't be, your blood pressure shouldn't be through the roof. You shouldn't
no,
be not sleeping at night because of the stresses of everything.
yeah,
As
agreed.
long as you're doing a sort of a good job and you know you're successful in how you want to be,
Yeah,
then the work-life balance of having the time off, having the time with your children is just as important.
yeah,
There's no point in working if you miss your kids growing up.
no, no, agreed completely. And Helen, I think you're aware we're a business coaching organisation. I'm keen to know who the best coaches you've worked with, whether that's business, sport, life in general. Who's had the biggest impact on you?
Um, I mean, ultimately, I wouldn't say I've really particularly worked with any coaches. I would say the person that's had the biggest impact would be my stepdad and my mum,
Yeah,
ultimately.
yeah,
My
yeah,
stepdad from a business point of view, and just my mum from life in general,
yeah,
in
brilliant.
terms of learning just how to be a good person
Yeah, brilliant.
and the determination and everything. I mean, my mum, unfortunately, as you know, she
Yeah,
passed away last year, and she did have a long-term health condition which she'd lived with most of her life,
right.
which was extremely hard. But for us as children and growing up into adulthood, her determination and strength to get up every day and never let that be an excuse or hold her back, and to always push herself further than she potentially needed to do, or
Yeah,
most people would, I would say is probably the biggest influences in my life,
yeah,
from that
brilliant.
sense. Just
Well,
learning that inner strength, when you see somebody you love doing that day in, day out, it's hard not to sort of want to strive
yeah,
to be like that.
brilliant. What a lovely testimony to her. That's a great, that's a great bit of feedback. And whether it's from her or other people, do you have any favourite quotes or sayings that you catch yourself using on a regular
I
basis?
would say one of, especially in this industry, one of the favourite quotes I say quite often is "Failing to prepare is preparing to fail."
Yeah, brilliant.
Is
Uh,
um is probably one of the key ones that's said really.
It's a great one, isn't it? It's like
Measure twice, cut once.
measure twice, cut once. That's a great one for the construction industry for sure, isn't it? Absolutely. And it just makes sense, doesn't it? It's just like, just double check and double check. Because especially in that sort of environment where you are cutting things up, it's like
Yeah.
you don't want to get that wrong. And in terms of learning, do you have any favorite books or podcasts about business or success that you can recommend?
I honestly, I wouldn't say I've read any books or listened to any podcasts
Cool.
on business. I've sort of, might sound daft, but feel like I've just kind of winged it since I started.
Cool. Lots of people do.
Just sort of gone with the flow and worked it out
Brilliant.
as I've been going.
Brilliant. Wonderful. Yeah, that's absolutely great. And on that, let's sort of know, what would you say you've learned about yourself throughout your journey
Um,
so far?
I would say I've probably learned from my own personal point of view. I don't know, it's really hard, isn't it, to sort of sit and analyze yourself. I've probably learned about myself that I have probably more strength than I thought I had, both
Mm.
mentally and physically, if you know what I mean, in
Yeah,
terms
yeah,
of being able to sort of keep it. And the learning to trust yourself, I would say, in
yeah.
terms of learning when you have a gut instinct, learning to trust yourself with that feeling is probably the most important one. Not to doubt yourself, and also that it's okay to make a mistake,
Great.
because you can learn just as much from a mistake you make as you can from never getting something wrong. In fact, you can learn more actually.
Way more. Couldn't agree. Yeah, absolutely couldn't agree more. It's in fact our founder, a guy called Brad Trigger, is a very, very successful guy. He told me many years ago that he believes he's as successful as he is because he's made more mistakes than anybody else he knows. Not despite it. It was literally the act of being comfortable in doing things and failing was
Yeah,
what helped him get to where he is.
yeah. There's nothing wrong with making a
No.
mistake, trying something, failing, trying again. Because actually, what you get from that is probably more important than never having to face that
Yeah.
adversity and everything.
Agreed, absolutely agreed. So looking forward, Helen, what does the future look like for you guys, and what challenges do you think you might face, if any?
Well, obviously, there's probably always challenges. The industry itself can be very volatile. I mean, we touched on COVID sort of thing before. We were very lucky in our industry with COVID, working in the lab industry.
Yeah,
Um, Even though some of the projects we would have been doing sort of were put on hold,
yeah.
other ones, especially in the pharmaceutical side, all of a sudden needed to build these COVID testing labs sort of thing. So
Oh, blimey, of course, yeah.
we were actually very lucky in the sense that we probably had probably a month where we were a bit uncertain, and then
Yeah,
all of a sudden it was flying
yes, I can
again,
imagine.
sort of thing. But sorry, I forgot what the question was.
What's the future look like? What challenges
Future.
do might you face, if any?
I mean, the future of the challenges we face is our industry, especially our sort of livelihood, depends very much on the investment into
Yes.
the pharmaceutical companies in the UK.
Yeah.
So our success is dependent on the investment that's happening at government levels, sort of from other countries and everything.
Yeah.
Um, so, and the science sector is very quietly an extremely important part of the UK sort of economy that people don't sort of realise. There's
Yes.
a
Yes.
lot of investment in the science sector.
Absolutely.
And I think some of the challenges are, especially at the moment, the volatility in our country of what taxes are going to be in terms of for business, corporations, personal,
Yeah.
because that has a huge knock-on effect in the investments that American companies, European companies put into their
Yeah.
sort of premises in the UK. So the challenges are probably the wider market more than anything for
Right.
us.
Yeah. 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 No. No. That makes a lot of sense. And I'm keen to know, Helen, what you'd say to anyone that was thinking of going into business right now. What would be advice for them?
My advice was, my advice would be to go for it ultimately.
Great.
Uh, as long as you're prepared to put the work in, to struggle with the challenges, and sort of keep going. Don't,
Great.
you know what I mean? It's not a quick process. It
No,
takes
that's
time,
true. Exactly.
and have faith in yourself ultimately.
Love it. Love it. Great bit of advice. And finally, what advice would you give an 18-year-old you if you could go back in time and do that?
Oh, if I could go back and advise myself, um, again, it would probably be like I said before, it would be to trust myself more,
Brilliant.
really.
I think that is really sound advice for anyone at any age, but especially that age. And I think I've got well one daughter's still teenage and another one's in the 20s, and I think that especially in the modern world, there's so many knocks that people get through things like social media and stuff. So trusting yourselves and having confidence in ourselves is so important. So
Yeah.
very
Believing
sound
in
advice.
yourself. Because like I say, I've got two sons, one at 13 and 11.
Right.
Uh, and again, they're obviously one's just about to start secondary school, one's a couple of years in. And again, it's sort of be yourself. Do not try to be anybody else
Yeah.
to fit in, to mean.
Yeah,
Just
absolutely. It's
yeah,
it's
trust in yourself.
it's so important. It's very difficult for kids, I think, in general, and especially in the modern world. But the more we can, the better it is, I think. Really
Yeah.
do. Helen, it's been really delightful talking to you. There's some some real gold in some of the things we've talked about, and which I thank you for because I think they'll help other people
No
as
problem
they
at all.
develop their journeys in business. And it'd be great to maybe swing by another 6, 12 months and just see
Yeah.
what's next and how things have changed for you, especially with the bit of uncertainty going on. But for anyone that's watching would like to get in touch with you or Iab Lab, what would be the best way of doing that?
Well, the best way I'll see is we've got our website, which is www.iab-lab.co.uk,
Yep,
or either via email, which is info@iab-lab.co.uk, or again, just pick up the phone. My
brilliant,
contact number and is on the website, and by all means, pick up the phone. I'm very keen on the fact that anybody who contacts us, I'm not a managing director that isn't reachable. My number is first on the phone. You can
brilliant,
press my name, and anybody who wants can come through to me. You're not going to
brilliant,
be fielded by somebody, and
brilliant,
you're
lovely,
coming directly through to me at any point.
wonderful. Well, look, I say it'd be great to swing by again and have another chat in the future. But for now, thank you so much.
No problem. Thank you.
Thank you.